Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and I built a set of mathematical models named Sideline to predict various sports outcomes. For more about the model during the course of this episode, it's set to cover 6 Major League Baseball games scheduled to be played on Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickstheprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Also, if you're interested in projections and picks for every game, sign up on Dub Club. That link is in the show description. But even if you're not there, still thrilled to have you here. Remember that sports are unpredictable, so the discussion in this show projects a typical game and does not try to forecast it to a T, as it'd be a foolish and impossible goal. Take a long-term view on here and don't get distracted when weird baseball things happen, as that stuff balances out in the long run, but it's hard to foresee before it happens. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to see will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Monday here, I'm recording this late afternoon. The White Sox have already won, so we got us a winner in the books there. And I'm a terrible salesperson, and many of y'all, if you've been with me for a while, y'all know that I don't I don't do business at all. I just do the math. I watch the sports. I do the math. But people have pointed out on Discord the value of being part of that dub club, getting access to the picks right when they're made, getting access to the projections the morning before the games and attacking those opening lines, how much the lines have moved in our favor. The White Sox, we got them here on Monday at plus 115. If you're with us on Dub Club, you saw that right when it went out. It went away at some point after that, and I can't control that. If I knew what the line would do, right, that'd be a different story. But I don't know what the line's going to do, so I can't make picks or not make picks based off of what the line's going to do. I have no idea what's going to happen with it. Generally, it goes towards my model, but not always. So I never really know. That thing, by evening, down to plus 105, rent even money. Some people were getting minus 105s even, and then before game time, I saw it was up minus 115 or minus 120 or things like that. That's a lot of value there, and that happens more times than not. So again, just a reminder, I've built this model to help us be better informed, make better picks, and you get access to all of my tools if you're with us on Dub Club, including that Discord chat, which is not only just a lot of fun, but a lot of good discussion about bets for baseball, for other sports, hockey, NBA, anything that's happening, golf, a lot of golf talk, of course, the Masters over the weekend, a lot of information out there. So just a lot of good things on that Dub Club. Again, that link's in the show description. Got a lot of good picks for you here today on Tuesday. Got 6 games, 3 dogs, 3 favorites. You're going to think we're going one way or the other based off of the timing of them, but I'm just doing them in time order. But I do have a mix of favorites and dogs and a lot of good discussion for you. But before we get to it, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, might as well hit that subscribe button. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of college basketball, MLB, or college football content this channel provides. Reminder, A grade money line plays return 4 units. That is the risk plus win equals 4. If it's even money, that means you risk 2 to win 2. That way you risk proportionally more on favorites than dogs. B grade plays return 3 units. C grade plays return 2. That way we don't have to worry about if we take a big dog, and we're going to take a couple big dogs today. We're going to take a couple big favorites. We don't have to quite worry about it. It just proportions it out. Again, if you have a style that you like, do what you do. But this way, I like the fact that it helps scale us appropriately. It works out pretty well. A grade plays have done better, so I have a little more on them. I don't expect it to always be quite so much this way. I don't expect the A plays to destroy the B grade plays through the rest of the season, but so that way we're kind of diversified by playing more of them. But again, we always have more of those A grade plays, so they tend to do better. So just things to keep in the back of your mind. But as always, take what you like and leave the rest. 6:40 p.m. Eastern, Marlins and the Phillies back to Marlins here on Monday. Hopefully they get the job done for us with Cy Young Sandy on the mound, and then now we're going to go right back to fading him on Tuesday. Bottom line with this Phillies team, not as bad as they've looked. Bottom line with this Marlins team, I don't trust them against righties. Talked about it yesterday about the Monday game. Facing Aaron Nola, I think is going to be a tall task for an offense that is very weak against right-handed hitting. Nola's a much better pitcher than he's shown in his first 2 outings. His underlying metrics aren't that bad, so I don't have a problem backing Nola at a price like minus 155. It gets a B grade. Model says it should be Phillies minus 159, that they win a little over 60% of the time. So a decent little play here to add to your portfolio. Again, if you can get a price on the other side of minus 150, now you're talking about more A grade territory, but minus 155, still worth a play. Obviously, just always looking for a better price if it's out there. I do like Jesus Luzardo. I think he's a really good pitcher. His first 2 starts, he's probably not as good as that .71 ERA. Underlying metrics have him a little bit higher than that, but that's obviously not a shock. I mean, no pitcher is going to pitch at that level in today's game for a full season, but he's done well in his first 2 starts. And I don't think it's really a mirage. I think he's a really good pitcher. Bottom line, I still don't think he's as good as Aaron Nola. He doesn't have the history, the track record, etc. So I'm excited about this pitching matchup. I actually have both these guys in my dynasty league. So I'm hoping for a pitcher's duel. So I'm not going to be touching the under because I'm rooting for a 1-0 Phillies win. But as much as I like Luzardo and I've been tracking him in our dynasty league, I still think Aaron Nola is the better pitcher. And I don't think I'm breaking any news by saying that. So backing the better pitcher with the Phillies, the better offense. The Phillies offense is great, but they're at least league average. Again, Marlins against the lefty, league average offense, maybe even a little better against the righty, just not so much. A better offense in this case with the Phillies. Marlins bullpen, not bad, but Phillies bullpen pretty good as well. So I think the Phillies have an edge there and at home. This price should be a little bit higher than this. I'm a little surprised it's not more like in the minus 160s up towards minus 170. So minus 155 B grade on the Phillies, a pretty solid investment in my opinion. Models is 8.2 for the total. Again, I'm hoping that's wrong. We are going to have a nice day. Low 70s to start, low 60s to finish. And the wind will be blowing out/across. It's going to be kind of diagonal towards being out towards right, maybe a little bit more across, maybe a little more out. You just never know exactly. But it will be moderately strong, a little over 10 miles an hour to start, dropping a little bit under 10 to close. So it's going to be part of the reason why the model is projecting a higher total in this game. We've seen totals get high. The model is now making that adjustment going forward. All the totals you'll see will be a little bit higher because of the baseball that you're using apparently. Looking like it's going to have a little bit less resistance. That's going to be more home runs. Home run rates are rising. And if the wind's blowing out, you're starting off around low 70s. I'm not saying this game goes over. It's just that the conditions are right for it. Again, as someone who has both these pitchers in Dynasty, I really hope they can keep the ball in the yard, but that's really the big concern this year in baseball is on cold days, pitchers have had sometimes a hard time keeping the ball in the yard. On a day that's low 70s to start, upper 60s for most of the game, and maybe the wind blowing out, it won't be easy to keep the ball in the yards. That's why the model projects 8.2. Not a total that I want to invest in. Again, I'm already invested emotionally with these 2 pitchers. But again, Phillies minus 155, a pretty good investment. Also, 6:40 p.m. Eastern, Red Sox at the Rays. I think the favorite Rays here at minus 180. I've mentioned this before. Anytime the model gives any look towards Shane McClanahan, I want to highlight it. We tend to fade the better pitchers unless they're also facing a good pitcher. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But the bottom line here is that anytime we can get an edge on McClanahan, I love it because I'm just so used to fading this guy. But he is really, really good. One of the top pitchers in baseball. Garrett Whitlock, not a bad pitcher either. It's basically a similar situation to the first game that we talked about where the home team has one of the top pitchers in baseball, top 10 guy for sure, maybe even top 5, depending on exactly which eye you close and who's kind of healthy and injured at the moment. Not that Whitlock is bad, but he's kind of like Luzardo. Both those guys are better than average. Absolutely, they're good pitchers. They're just not top 5, top 10 pitchers. And so the Rays will have a pretty big edge with the pitcher. Offensively, I really like this Rays offense. The model has them up there a full standard deviation better than league average, whereas the Red Sox rate pretty average. And the Red Sox are kind of left-handed heavy, so the Red Sox get a little bit of a ding against the lefty here. So the difference in the offense, Red Sox facing a lefty and the Rays, who are balanced just facing anybody, is a lot. And I think it's what people don't realize in this one, just how much of an edge the Rays are going to have offensively. They're also at home. Probably doesn't matter a ton here, the location, right? The ease of sleeping in your own bed, that sort of thing. But there will be a lot of Boston fans there. So I'm not sure how much of a home field edge they'll have. But again, the Rays just going to be a better team with regards to starting pitcher, with regards to the offense, and even the bullpen. The Red Sox bullpen, a whole lot better than last year. But still, I think this Rays pen is one of the better ones in the American League. So the Rays are just going to have edges everywhere here. Minus 180. Again, a pretty good investment. Model says it should be minus 187. Looking for a better price to get to an A grade, but at minus 180, I think it's worth a play here. Realistically, as long as the number starts with a 1, I don't think the Rays are a bad investment. Again, the model tends to not like backing these better pitchers. So anytime we can, it's always fun to do it. It's always more comfortable to do it. So I always love when it tells us to, like the Rays here. Again, B grade according to the model, I definitely think worth a play. Total model says 7.4. That's about what I'm seeing out there in the market. So I think the total is priced pretty well. 7:20 p.m. Eastern, Reds at the Braves. Going to take a big favorite here in the Braves. The model says this should be Braves minus 332. Now, here's the thing we have to remember. Some of you are well aware of this. If you're not, it's just a good reminder. Close to even money when you move a line 5 cents, 10 cents, you move it every 10 cents, every 5 cents, I think is about worth 1%, close to even money. When you get higher, you need for 1%, you need about a 25-cent move up around the 2s and 300s and stuff like that. It gets bigger and bigger. It's not a linear scale. So that's the thing to remember, is that you do have to pay a bigger price out at these numbers. Of course, absolutely. No one's arguing that. But the differences with regards to probability are not quite the same translation. What I mean by that is you might look at a price where the model says it should be minus 332 and say, oh my gosh, that's $1.20 off. And it is $1.20 off. I'm not lying about that, but it's percentage wise only off by what would be around closer to even money, more like 40 cents or something like that. So it's definitely a big Braves edge. I love the Braves here. I think this is way underpriced, and I'll talk about why in a minute, but we just want to remember that being $1 mispriced from even money to minus 200 is a world of difference from a probability scale than 215 to 330 is. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. Either way, though, the Braves still a great play at minus 215, easy A grade pick. Anything that starts with a 2 is a pretty good investment on the Braves. Obviously, the lower 2s gets A grade, higher 2s. Again, you're getting a little bit less value on it, but I love the Braves here. I love Kyle Wright. First start of the year coming back from injury. I'm not sure exactly how deep he's going to go. At this point, you never know when a guy has his first start like this, but that Braves bullpen's one of the best in the majors, so it doesn't really matter how deep he goes, because if it's a tight game, the Braves have arms upon arms upon arms to bring in relief. And I don't expect it to be a close game, because Luis Cessa, one of the worst starting pitchers who's actually getting to start in baseball. I don't really like a lot about this Reds team, but this is a massive mismatch on the starting pitcher. He did throw relatively well in his first outing based off the results, but the underlying metrics projected his ERA for that game to be in the upper 4s, and that's what I have him projected it going forward. So I think if he continues to pitch like that, which I think he will, he'll be about where the model has him, which is upper 4s ERA, and that's a park neutral ERA, not even considering the fact that he plays in a pitcher-friendly ballpark. So I don't think a lot of Luis Cessa. I do really like Kyle Wright. He was great to us last year. I don't need him to go out there and give a 7 shutout. Even 4 or 5 will be sufficient with this Braves bullpen. And, of course, the offensive discrepancy here. The Braves have a much better offense than the Reds. So minus 215 is a gift, in my opinion. The model says the Braves win this 77% of the time. If you are doing a 2-team money line parlay, my favorite suggestion for you is to pair this game with our A+ play of the day for Tuesday. That's exclusive to Dub Club members. So if you're with us on Dub Club, you know what game I'm talking about, and you know what my favorite 2-team money line parlay would be. I don't love doing parlays, but I know a lot of people do them, so I'm trying to teach you. I'm trying to go with the smartest and best ways to do them. And if you're going to do a 2-team money line parlay, Braves and that A+ play of the day would be the pairing that I would make here for Tuesday. So again, sign up on Dub Club if you're not already with us to get that information. Total wise, model says 7.8. I'm seeing 9, so the model likes the under in this game, just like it did for Monday. It's going to be another chilly night, but not quite as chilly. That's why the total is a little bit higher, because we are going to start off in the mid-60s, but it's going to be chilly by the end, closing in the mid-50s, and the wind will be blowing in around 5 miles an hour. So again, we always talk about Atlanta in the summer when it's hot and the wind's blowing out. Pretty hitter-friendly ballpark, but in the start and the end of the season, when it's a little bit colder in the 50s and the wind's blowing in, it can be a pretty pitcher-friendly ballpark where it's pretty spacious. So some balls might fall, but you're not going to hit a lot of home runs, and it's hard to get a lot of runs based off of just getting singles. So model would definitely lean under in this one. Again, kind of as I mentioned previously, if I was going to do an under, I might go Reds team total under, but this under is a little bit shaky just because this game could get out of hand really quickly. Model says it's a Braves runaway, and then at that point, you never know who's pitching, who's getting work. So total, while the model leans under, Reds team total under might not be a bad look. It's one I'm just not as comfortable with. I want to focus all my attention on the Braves at this really cheap price of minus 215. There's a lot of value on it because the Braves should win this close to 3/4 of the time, making this a really strong play. We're not going to take every big favorite, though. We're going to take a few dogs as well. Let's grab the Royals at plus 225 here. Only a C-grade pick. Why is it a C-grade pick? It actually has nothing to do with the fact that it's a dog. It has to do with the fact that the model says that this should be Rangers minus 233. So, of course, you flip that, it should be Royals plus 233. Getting plus 225 isn't really a great investment. The model doesn't really love much in this one, but I do want to point out Jacob deGrom's had a lot of problems getting wins, and I'm not really sure exactly why. There are a lot of hypotheses out there. One of them is the fact that when the offense knows there's a really good pitcher on the mound, they tend to maybe not be as focused, not show up as much. I don't know if that's what's happened to him in New York. You would hope with a new team that's not happening with him in Arlington. I still think Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in Major League Baseball, hands down. And again, he's a whole lot better than Jordan Lyles is. But when you look at the price of this, backing the Rangers at a price like minus 260, it's just really steep, because if you've been following Jacob deGrom at all and backing him at those types of prices, you have lost a ton of money, and you've lost a ton of parlays that you've put him in, because while he's really, really good, he can only control at most half the game, and that's if he goes 9 innings. Even if he goes 9 innings, he can't even control half the game, because the fact that he's going to have some balls put in play, and the defense has got to play behind him. So at most, he's controlling, say, 40 to 45% of the game. If he doesn't go 9, now that's probably into the 30s. And again, he is an amazing pitcher, but paying minus 260 really fails to understand how variable baseball is. And so again, I've mentioned this before, big favorites and big dogs can have value. It's based off of comparing them to what the real probability is. I'm using Sideline as my justification for why I think those probabilities are what they are. If you think differently, if you want to take Sideline's information and combine it with someone else's, that's totally fine too, and not a bad way to look at things. There are other systems out there that project and give probabilities. Whatever you want to look at and however you want to do it makes a lot of sense. That's just how I would recommend doing it. I'm looking at it saying, I do think the Rangers win this about 70% of the time. And if they win 70% of the time and you're laying a price like minus 260, or God forbid, even higher, you're going to long-term be losing money, because those times they lose, you're going to lose way more than you win. And so sometimes taking big favorites, like the Braves we just talked about, can be profitable. That doesn't mean the Braves win. It just means that in the long run, taking prices like minus 215 on the Braves, when I think it should be a lot higher, the model thinks it should be a lot higher, is good. Taking prices like minus 260 on the Rangers, when the model thinks the price shouldn't be that high, that isn't good. And again, however you come up with your probabilities, there's a lot of different ways to do it. If you want to go with something else that works for you, again, I highly encourage that. If you're using Sideline as a justification, backing the Rangers at minus 260 is just a non-starter. So we're going to take the dog here at plus 225. We're going to risk, it's like a half unit the way this scales out. And our big plays are A+ play of the day. We tend to be risking more like 3 units to win 2, or 2.5 to win 2.5. We're risking half a unit here. So relatively speaking, we don't have to win this one very often. We're risking a very small amount of our bankroll on it, and just going to see, hey, can the Royals pull the upset? They kind of can be a little bit frisky. Their offense, not good, but maybe it's not as bad as it's been in years past, as bad as we thought it was last year. And if the offense for the Rangers doesn't show up, Jacob deGrom could lose this, just like we've seen ace pitchers lose a lot of games, because it's not all in their control. So again, a decent play here on the Royals, plus 225. Seagrave taking a shot here. Bullpen wise, that's the other thing. Both of these bullpens are really bad, so it's a lot of pressure on Jacob deGrom to go deep. Obviously, Lyle's not the best starter. If he shows up, though, and pitches well, this is kind of one of those anything can happen games. Or if the Rangers offense doesn't show up, it's an anything can happen type game, because while this Royals offense is a little bit below average, this Rangers offense I don't think is that great either. I have them slightly below average. So again, Rangers offense better, absolutely, and they're at home, and they have the better pitcher, but it's all about the price, and minus 260 or again above, just way too much for the Rangers. So let's take a chance on the dog here and see if the Royals can pull it off. I'm projecting the roof to be open. Should be a nice night in Arlington, around 70 degrees at first pitch, closing around 60. Slight breeze swirling around. Model projects a total of 7.6. I'm seeing numbers of 8. I think there's a little bit of correlation between the Royals pulling the upset and the under. It seems unlikely that the Royals are going to win a score fest, because deGrom doesn't tend to give up a ton of runs that often. He did in that opening start, but his underlying metrics have been superb. Jacob deGrom is still legit good. Don't be fooled by the runs he gave up in that first outing. So it's not that it can happen, but I do think if the Royals pull it off, it is more likely to be under. So you may be a little bit of a correlated parlay type thing there if you wanted to. I think 8, maybe a little bit high in this one. If the Royals have any chance, it's probably going to be winning a 3-1 type game. 2 late games to talk about. Brewers and Diamondbacks. Going to grab the dog here. Diamondbacks plus 125. A grade play. Merrill Kelly versus Corbin Burns. Burns has not looked good in his first 2 outings, and the underlying metrics say he hasn't pitched well. It's not like deGrom, where maybe he's given up some runs, but I think everything is fine under the hood. Burns has not looked good. Now, I don't think there's any long-term reason to be concerned. I still think he's going to be a fantastic pitcher, but it does at least raise an eyebrow and make you a little bit concerned that he might not quite be at that superhuman level before. It's only 2 starts. Again, I'm not trying to overreact. I'm just pointing out that the 2 starts, it's not like it's a mirage. He has not thrown the ball well. Merrill Kelly, has been okay in his first 2 starts. Could be a little bit better, could be a little bit worse. Corbin Burns definitely the better pitcher in this one. But that's going to be the only area that the Brewers have a massive edge. They're going to have a little bit of an edge offensively, but this Diamondbacks offense continues to score runs and impress. Brewers offense, a little bit, around average, a little bit better. Diamondbacks a little bit low. So Brewers have a little bit of an edge offensively. Bullpen-wise, it's probably about a wash. Obviously, you have Corbin Burns, but they're on the road. The Brewers should be favored, but I don't think they should be favored by that much. This is close to a coin toss game. Model says Brewers minus 112, that they win this 53% of the time. So if we can win with Diamondbacks 47% of the time, it makes plus 125 a great investment. So like playing the home dog here. Kelly's been good to us in the past. Wasn't last time out, but that doesn't mean a whole lot here. Mostly if you've been fading Burns so far, you've been looking good. Why not try it again with another dog? Favorites don't win all the time, so Diamondbacks here a pretty good investment. Total, I'm seeing 8.5. Model says 8.3 on a night that I project the roof to be closed. So pretty good pricing on the total here. My gut says these pitchers are good and let's go under, but also with the way the ball's been flying, a total projection that close isn't really an under that I want to take. I think there's better unders on the board. Last one here, 9:45 p.m. Eastern, Dodgers at Giants. A little bit of a rivalry here, of course. Let's take another dog at the Giants at plus 125. It's a B-grade pick backing Alex Wood versus Dustin May. Model says these two pitchers are pretty similar. I don't know how much I agree with that. I think May is probably the better pitcher by more than the model thinks. Model gives May an 88 and Alex Wood a 90. And again, a reminder, if you want to check out all the ratings for pitchers and teams, that information is in the link in the show description to the public-facing Google sheet. There's a tab for teams and starting pitchers. You can see that it rates May ahead of Wood, but not by much. I don't know if I agree with that, though. The biggest problem with both of these guys is going to be length. But May's problem with length is that he might get pulled after 5 or 6, and he's not going to go deeper into the game. That's not that uncommon these days. Alex Wood's problem is that he may only go 3 innings, which happened last time out. Wood's a really good pitcher. He just sometimes has innings where he loses it. And against an offense like the Dodgers, that could spell disaster. The good news for him is that I still think he's a good pitcher. He tends to play better against the Dodgers, a team that he once pitched for. Just got to hope he can avoid that blow-up inning. But I do like this Giants offense. I've been talking about the Giants a lot this season. I've been backing them. Their offense is now above average. Their bullpen is actually pretty good. It matches up with the Dodgers bullpen. So obviously Dustin May is a really good pitcher, but I don't think the Dodgers should be favored at the price that they are. The Dodgers have struggled this year. Don't know if that carries into Tuesday or not. But the Giants at plus 125, again, it's worth a shot. If you're taking a couple of these plays like the Giants and the Diamondbacks, let's say we just split, we've made money, right? And one of them can lose by 10. Who cares? A loss is a loss as long as we get one of them to win. If you're betting the same amount, you made money. Now we're going to put a little more in the Diamondbacks and the Giants, but again, we're kind of talking rounding error at the difference at that point. So it's however you want to play it. As long as we can get, some of these reasonable small plus odds plays and split them, we're going to be doing really well. Total in this game is 8.5 or 8, depending on your book. Model projects 8. We're going to have a breeze blowing out at 10 to 15 miles an hour, but it'll be, of course, a chilly night in San Francisco. And of course, the last thing to mention, I mentioned this last year, but I don't think I've talked about a game in that park this year yet, if you're new with us. But in that park, the wind was weird and it swirls, and it's like will be blowing out hard towards one field and blowing in softly the other way. And then up the middle, it'll be like even a third direction. It gets really weird in that park. So based off of the historical data, that park, I pretty much tamped down the wind effect, and it doesn't really mean a whole lot because that park, the way it was built, being right on the bay, the wind just does weird things there. So a wind doesn't really matter as much there. It's the anti-Wrigley. And Wrigley, the wind matters way more than anywhere else because the way it's built in San Francisco, it matters way less than anywhere else. Partially because of the way it was built as well, knowing that you get a lot of strong winds off the bay. So the main thing here isn't about the wind. It's about the fact that it's a cooler night. When it's warmer in San Francisco, especially those day games, this park with the change dimensions last year plays very hitter friendly and becomes a pretty run favorable environment. On a chillier night, though, it does play a little bit more pitcher friendly. So it's not the old school guaranteed under like it used to be when it was cold in San Francisco. But it's not a warm enough day to say that it's going to be a ton of runs either. So again, 8.5, probably pretty well priced, again, according to the model and just based off of what we know about the way this park is played with the new dimensions. And that's all I've got for you here today. Again, remember to check out the link in the show description to get on Dub Club, to get all the other picks, projections, access to the Discord, all the fun goodies available over there. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your YouTube feed. Be back again tomorrow with more baseball betting content. Until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.